Hello and welcome to my weekly video vlog, and today I'm going to be talking about 4 surprising sleep symptoms in the perimenopause and menopause. If you like my tips and advice, then please subscribe and remember to hit the bell icon so you can be notified of all my new videos. So we know from our own research that poor sleep is the second most common symptom in the perimenopause and menopause. And the usual symptoms would be things like not being able to fall asleep or taking ages to fall asleep, waking up really early, waking up 2 or 3 times during the night and not being able to get to sleep. But there's also some more kind of less common sleep issues that could be a factor as well. So today I'm going to talk about 4 of them, what can cause them and what you can do to help yourself. Now, number 1 is sort of vivid dreams. You know, those dreams that you get where you actually feel that you're like in a movie, and when you do wake up, you feel absolutely exhausted. So it's these dreams that go into great detail and you're there right in the middle of everything. It could also be, for some people, you just stop dreaming completely. This is a really interesting one because there is part of the brain called the amygdala. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. And this is a major processing area, or a major processing center in the brain that deals with our emotions. It also has links to many other brain abilities. So it's like looking at memories, it can be how to learn things, it can be connected to our smell, and also our fear responses. So what can happen as our estrogen starts to fall, falling estrogen or lower estrogen can impact on the amygdala and make it much more reactive and responsible and sort of sensitive to less stimuli. So here you are, you're asleep, so there's less processing going on in the brain. But what happens, the amygdala can then kick in and these emotions can be released into our dreams. So this is why very often they become action-packed. Now, number 2 symptom is nightmares and night terrors. Now, nightmares can also be associated with what's going on in the amygdala purely because our fear responses can be released. So when we start dreaming, it may well be that, you know, we're more fearful anyway at this particular time. It could be that we're just more fearful about what's going on in the world in general. So that when we go into that dream state, the fear sort of center in the brain is released. So we end up kind of overcompensating and we get the nightmares. So all of these, and sometimes for the no dreams, if you're not getting any dreams at all, it may well be that during the day you find that your emotions are just shutting down, you're stepping back from everything. So that again can affect your dreams, and you might find it quite strange when you wake up and you can't remember anything. So the night terrors, which can be part of nightmare. So again, it can just be the fact that you're overly fearful when you're having this nightmare. But also there's another reason for night terrors. And again, it's a really interesting one. I love these things. When we fall asleep, part of the sleep process is that our muscles become semi-paralyzed. If you think about it, if you just go to sleep and you dream, then your body would follow through with all the action. So obviously you don't want to be, thrashing about in bed and hitting your partner or doing all these kind of movements. So when you go into a sleep state, and very often, you know what happens, you're just about to sleep and you feel all your muscles kind of jerking. So very often what happens is you go into this semi-paralyzed state, your lung function decreases as well. But because of the hormonal changes, very often you can wake up, because you're in a shallower sleep, you wake up very, very quickly and you end up waking up before this paralyzing effect decreases. So you wake up in the middle of the night, you find it hard to breathe, I've had it a couple of times, and it's absolutely terrifying, because you can't even talk, you can't call out, and very often it's associated with dreams as well, maybe the nightmares. So you're trying to call out, you may feel as if someone is actually sitting on your chest, stopping you from breathing. You can't move, and it is this whole sort of paralyzing effect. Eventually, after maybe a minute or so, that effect wears off and then you're okay. But in the meantime, you have been through an extremely terrifying thing. And as I say, from my own experience, your heart's going like mad, and you're just, you end up having to get up and just calm yourself down. So how do you sort this one out? It's quite a difficult one. I've tried to do a little bit of research on it, and what I've found, or what they seem to say, is that if you're getting the very vivid dreams, the action-packed dreams, the nightmares or the night terrors, then it's trying to calm the amygdala down. And this seems to be helped by mindfulness. So before you go to bed, maybe in the evening, mindfulness, some meditation, just a short meditation session before bed. So it's no stimuli. You want to calm your brain down as much as possible. So that's no TV, no scary TV, no scary books. You're not wanting to strike up the fear response and have that already working before you go to sleep. The other thing they find, which again is really interesting, is that walking in nature has a very calming impact on the amygdala's ability. Whereas when they did the studies of people walking for the same length of time in towns, it had no effect at all. So this is another one of these situations where walking in nature seems to have some really great health benefits generally. So number 3 is sleepwalking and talking. Again, it may be due to the amygdala overfiring, especially if we're not actually getting that sort of calming down and sort of semi-paralysis before going to sleep. The other thing it can be is something called sleep apnea, and this is something that seems to be quite common in the perimenopause and menopause. Falling estrogen can affect the stability and strength of the airways in the throat and to the lungs. So what happens when you fall asleep? The airways are weaker and they tend to collapse. So it basically stops you breathing for a second or two. So that continual collapsing and opening up can trigger something called sleep apnea. So if you find at night that you are waking up gasping for breath, then it's really important to get this one checked out by your doctor. But again, this whole process seems to trigger the sleepwalking and the sleep talking too. You've also got the fact that it could be alcohol, seems to be quite a trigger for sleepwalking. It can also be just general stress. So number 4 is snoring. And again, so many of you tell me that suddenly, your other half has been telling you that you're snoring like a steam train. So again, this can be due to the sleep apnea. It can be due to the fact of weakness in the throat and the airways. So again, if the snoring has suddenly appeared, if you're told that it's really loud and it's stopping and starting, just get this one checked out by your doctor. Remember to have a really good sleep routine and avoid the tea and the coffee and the alcohol in the evening. You can also try our Sleep Well sachets. These contain lemon balm, which is known to aid a restful sleep. So I hope you found this helpful. I certainly found it a really interesting one. If any of you have had any issues like this, what did you do? What happened to you? And remember, as always, I love your stories, and thank you so much for sending in questions and your comments. I will see you later, and have a lovely week.